So here I was engaging on X, thoughtfully and respectfully as I always do, when I happened to come across a rather interesting tweet. Is that what they're called these days? You may have heard of Mohammed Hijab, a famous Islamic apologist on the internet who's been on shows with Jordan Peterson and Piers Morgan. In this tweet, look, I'll just keep saying tweet for now, it says something rather remarkable. If we increase our birth rates, Muslims can be assured to be 10% of Britain and 20% of France in 2050, despite any policy changes in immigration. We're not the Zionist lobby. Our strength is not in our ability to influence politicians. Our strength is in our numbers. So why would a British person born to Egyptian parents say something so obviously provocative and polarizing? And well, dumb. Now, not shortly after I had seen this, a follower pointed me towards an even more absurd tweet from yet another British, we're surprised, Pakistani Muslim who rather unironically tweeted this: 2.2 billion Muslims in the world, a unified pan-Islam should be the future. Modern nationalism must be replaced by collective sovereignty. This sort of thinking is quite frankly alarming. If some of the biggest influencers in the online Islamic world, both of whom are living in Britain, really think this, I believe it shows you a complete failure of integration. Here we have individuals who have benefited from the opportunities, freedoms, and protections of a Western democracy. Yet their rhetoric reveals not gratitude, but contempt. So you immediately wonder, if this is how second-generation immigrants speak about what are now their home nations, what do their communities think in larger numbers? And that brings me back to this birthright tweet. It says a lot, doesn't it? Not just about hijab, but about what they believe being British really means. Or more importantly, what it doesn't mean to them. It's clear they don't value the idea of being British or even Western in any meaningful sense. It boggles my mind because these people were born there, in a sense, winning the contemporary birth lottery. There's no pride in history, no respect for the culture, no real allegiance to the nation that gave them and their families a home. Instead, it appears their loyalty lies elsewhere, with the Ummah, the Islamic community. And to them, that's what matters most. Not integrating, not building a shared future with the rest of society, but using their growing numbers to control and sway Britain. I mean, this became painfully obvious after October 7, a moment where the mask truly came off for many. It wasn't just tweets like this, it was a sheer lack of respect for the people who call Britain home. In a country that's welcomed them, given them a chance to build a better life, they respond with this. Not gratitude, not an effort to bridge divides, but outright disdain for the very people whose culture and society they now live in. It's a slap in the face, isn't it? Considering there are tons of people from all around the world who did everything to move, integrate, and embrace their new homes. This really is a total disregard for the people of Britain, people who are expected to make room, step aside, and watch as their own culture gets undermined in the name of someone else's vision for the future. And the worst part, it's not even subtle. They're saying it out loud now.
What are you going to do then? Actually, to oppose Sharia is even then? We have families, we are making babies. You're not. Our population is going down the slump.
The mask has slipped and they don't seem to care. And let's not kid ourselves. This isn't just happening in Britain. You can see the same patterns playing out across Western countries.
Wie könnte man jetzt aus Deutschland einen islamischen Staat machen? Wie zum Beispiel?
Laut den Werken ist das so, dass man, wenn man in der Mehrheit ist, wie Sie auch erklärt haben, sind wir dafür befohlen, Deutschland einzunehmen, auf jeden Fall.
Also es ist eine islamische Pflicht, auch Deutschland einzunehmen.
Auf jeden Fall.
Whether it's rhetoric like this, or entire communities that refuse to assimilate, the outcome does not look great. If someone like Hijab wanted to increase birth rates for dominance, you've got to wonder, why don't they move back? Clearly, they believe Islamic nations to be superior, so why live in a place like Britain? Unless, of course, it's all for the economic and personal freedoms they enjoy. The very freedoms provided by the infidels they claim to despise so much. The people who they look down on are the ones who built the system that allows them to thrive, speak freely, and push their agendas without fear of persecution. What he, and anybody who thinks like him, should know is this: a culture in a nation exists for a reason. All these freedoms, laws, and liberties, they exist because they've been built on a foundation of shared history, struggles, and experiences. Britain and the rest of Western civilization didn't just wake up one day and decide to be free and democratic societies. These values were forged over centuries through revolutions, wars, debates, and countless sacrifices. They're not just vague ideas floating in the air. They're the product of a collective effort upheld by generations who understood the importance of protecting and nurturing them. It requires commitment, respect, and a shared sense of purpose. If you undermine that, if you refuse to integrate or even acknowledge the culture that made these freedoms possible, you really are actively threatening the very principles that make it what it is. That's why this matters, because a nation's values aren't automatic. They need to be upheld, protected, and passed on. And if that's not something you're willing to respect, then maybe you're not really part of the society you claim to live in. Something I'd like you to be part of, by the way, is my subscribers. So, if you're enjoying this video so far, please hit that subscribe button and give the video a thumbs up. Going back, despite all of this, there are Islamists like Bushra, who, let me reiterate, lives in London, wants a pan-Islamic state. Does she mean like what ISIS wanted? Was it the mandatory hijab, the slave markets, or getting rid of unaliving dissidents that appeal to her? Why would you be wanting a pan-Islamic state while living in the West? What does it not offer you that an Islamic state might? Let me remind you, Muslim countries generally differ from place to place in terms of their actual beliefs too, and they've been infighting for as long as Islam has existed. So this idea is pretty terrible to begin with. Bushra is living in a country that allows her the freedom to express these ideas, no matter how flawed they are. Yet, the pan-Islamic state she envisions, it wouldn't extend the same courtesy to her or anyone who doesn't fit its rigid mold. Islamic states are not built for pluralism. They don't tolerate diversity of thought, religion, or even practice within Islam itself. Take Iran, for example, where Sunni Muslims are marginalized in a Shia majority state, or Pakistan, where Ahmadi Muslims are legally considered non-Muslims and face persecution for practicing their faith. Now, imagine adding non-Muslims into this equation. In Saudi Arabia, churches are banned, and conversion from Islam is punishable by death. Part of the reason why I have to wear a mask. In Afghanistan, under the Taliban, what little religious tolerance there was has completely vanished. Minorities like Hindus, Sikhs, and Christians are either driven out or forced to practice in secret, living in constant fear. This is the reality of the system Bushra dreams of, once again, from the comfort of a London apartment. It's not just oppressive to women, it's oppressive to anyone who doesn't conform to a narrow definition of what it means to be a Muslim. The idea of a unified pan-Islamic state isn't unity at all. It's a recipe for division, persecution, and control. And that's the beauty of pluralism in the West. It allows people of different backgrounds, beliefs, and identities to coexist, to contribute, and to challenge each other's ideas without fear. The freedoms Bushra enjoys as a Muslim in Britain wouldn't exist in the system she's advocating for. And this is where it all leads to division, alienation, and deeper fractures in society. When you push rhetoric like this, advocating for dominance, supremacy, or a pan-Islamic state, you're not just isolating yourself from the broader culture, you're alienating other minorities too. Minorities who don't espouse these dumb ideas, but rather embrace their nation. These ideas pit communities against each other, reinforcing racial and cultural divides that only fuel more mistrust and conflict. This isn't how a healthy, cohesive society functions. Integration doesn't mean losing your identity. It means finding a way to contribute to and thrive within a shared culture. But what we're seeing here, the refusal to adopt even basic respect for the nations they live in, reeks of a broader failure of integration in Islamic communities across the West. And let's be honest, this doesn't just harm the broader society, it harms Muslims themselves. By rejecting the values of pluralism, mutual respect, and coexistence, these communities risk isolating themselves even further. It's a vicious cycle, and rhetoric like this only keeps it spinning. If this is what integration looks like to them, it's no wonder so many people are questioning whether it's working at all. At the end of the day, societies only succeed when people share a sense of purpose, respect, and responsibility for one another. Ideas like hijabs or bushras are very telling and extremely concerning. A house divided by contempt and mistrust cannot stand. and the cracks in its foundation only grow deeper with every echo of such rhetoric. Hey, you made it to the end. So, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give the video a like. I'd also love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let me know what you think. A huge thank you to my current channel members and Patreon supporters. Your support makes all of this possible. And if you'd like to join them, consider becoming a member by hitting the join button below or heading over to Patreon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.